Probably the issue that Republicans talked about the most on this debate stage was abortion, interestingly. And actually, unlike climate change, Republicans are different gradations of awful on this topic. We know that, of course, Roe v. Wade is supported by the majority of Americans, including in red states. We also know that red states are rolling out some of the most draconian anti-choice, anti-abortion laws, and they are being affected. There are 13-year-old girls being forced to carry their rapist child, as was the case in Tennessee just recently. So this is a massive issue. But Republicans are like, okay, they're drawing some sort of distinction about it. DeSantis, for example, he demurred when asked whether he would support a 6-week federal ban. This is the big thing. Are we gonna implement this federally? And he criticized Democrats for backing abortions later in pregnancy. Stop down real quick. So not only did he say that Democrats were supporting abortions, late-term abortions, but he swears there's a woman named Penny who was forced to have an abortion at 42 weeks, basically at the time of delivery. Honey, that's not an abortion, okay? That's delivery of a baby, that's birth. I understand you don't know that because you don't have any of those parts on you, and you actually don't care to listen when women talk about their birth experiences, but that is not an abortion, that is actually scientifically impossible. Anyway, time in. Nikki Haley described the notion of the federal ban as unrealistic. This is an interesting tack, suggesting that Republicans would never have sufficient votes to pass such legislation. She also called for lawmakers to stop demonizing people over the issue and work toward a consensus around adoption and contraception policies. So Sharon, there's a little bit of a distinction here. DeSantis doesn't want to say whether he would support a federal ban. Nikki Haley says, effectively, I would support it, but we know Democrats wouldn't go along with it and we'd never get it past the Senate. So let's focus on contraception and adoption, which, to be honest with you, I was like, at least there is a Republican proposing some kind of solution to their heinous policies around this issue.
Yeah, and what she was kind of intimating is women shouldn't be locked up for the rest of their lives or put on death row for exercising freedom over their own bodies and their reproduction and everything else in between. DeSantis sounded like he always sounds, vapid, foolish, ridiculous. And I don't know where the other ones stand, except Mike Pence kept saying, my Lord and Savior. And by the way, she is right that no one's going to be supporting that legislation, but maybe somehow it'll make its way somewhere to those people in the robes and they'll be able to figure it out for them. And the evil will become the law of the land, even more so than it is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Nikki Haley almost sounds like, and I gotta just be real, she kind of sounds like a centrist Democrat. Like she is a very much a centrist, right? She sounds like a Democrat capitulating on abortion, which, let's be real, has been happening for way too many decades. Nancy Pelosi said you don't have to support, be pro-choice in order to be a Democrat, as recently, I think, as 2016. So Nikki Haley's trying to thread this needle on abortion, and I think what is so ironic about that, like you're saying, Sharon, is that these laws, they make women second-class citizens. These laws, doesn't matter if you want a child or you don't want a child. These laws puts every woman's body and every person who can get pregnant's body in danger, in jeopardy. We've seen that all across this country since Roe v. Wade was overturned over a year ago. You saw that specifically in Texas, where women are suing the state because they were unable to get abortion care when their lives were in danger. No matter these exceptions around rape and incest, they never actually, or the life of the mother, clearly they're not working. It is only fictitious, it's only in theory. So it was interesting to see Nikki Haley be like, what about contraception? Oh, what about, it's like, honey, they're coming for contraception too. Honey, they're coming for adoption too. You think they're gonna let people adopt? No, first of all, you gotta be straight, you gotta be white, you gotta be rich. Like all of these things, which by the way, if you're straight, rich, and white, you get your abortions anyway. To Mike Pence, he definitely a little shade to the right from everybody. Mike Pence took a more ardent position on abortion, supporting a 15-week federal ban, which he has challenged his rivals to embrace. The former vice president called curbing abortions a moral issue that should not be left to the states. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina interestingly echoed that sentiment, saying that it would be unethical for the president to be supportive of states such as California and New York that allow abortions further along in pregnancy. Again, and he echoed this late term abortion at birth, which I literally don't know. Like, at least when they say defund the police, it was actually a slogan at some point, but like never echoed by a real, like, anyone in power. Anyway, so there's Mike Pence. That's the future of the so-called, like it's fun to me that like the right of the Republican Party that like believes in democratic processes, like Mike Pence, saying yes, there's a process. I had to certify the election. That like also simultaneously, if he became president, he would instill like martial law on women's bodies. Like it would be like that we would each have curfews, Sharon. Like we'd have to be in our homes making dinner by 7 o'clock every night.
And no lip gloss either. You better not be caught wearing lip gloss. He will pardon Donald Trump. He will make his stance on abortion or lack thereof, the law of the land. Somehow he'll have this magic abortion wand and everything will be just terrific. It's just nuttiness. And I think you had it just right. It's degrees of nuttiness, where we have to depend on Nikki Haley to say, well, yeah, just adoption, contraceptive, but let's not demonize women. And oh yeah, you forgot that the babies have to be white too, okay? These aren't solutions to what's going on today. And they still take away our right to live, to breathe, how we see fit, our bodies. They just don't get it.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.